Dear viewer, at this very moment, you are seeing a view from my lap. Yep, this is what it would look like if you were sitting directly on my lap. Let that sink in for a minute. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Arr.
And the new for 1980s Sears model. You don't know that entrance.
I'm sorry.
That entrance is where the magic happened. Hello and welcome to the first installment of Unicom's BOGO edition, where we bring you buy one mall, get one free. As always, I'll be your cruise director, Kristen. In this video, we'll be exploring not one, but two malls, Eastgate Mall in Union Township, Ohio, and Northgate Mall in Coleraine Township, Ohio. Both are outside Cincinnati. Both of these malls are not dead, but they're hovering right at what you call vulnerable. They're about 50% occupancy. Both opened in the 1970s, both were remodeled in the mid-2000s, and both once featured Sears, JCPenney, and Dillard's as anchors, and both of them have Gate in their name. First, let's take a look at Eastgate Mall, which holds a special place in our hearts. There are parts of this mall that are fairly well occupied. The main center concourse leading from the food court is full. However, all the other wings have vacancies. In the case of the Sears wing, there are virtually no stores. The Dillard's is all but gone, now operating as a clearance center on the bottom floor only. It's open reduced hours from the remainder of the mall. We were in here at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and the Dillard's doesn't open until noon. This mall's story begins in 1974, which was when Jacobs, Visconti, and Jacobs began development and purchased the land for the mall. The Jacobs in this firm was then the owner of the Cleveland Indians, and he is whom Jacobs Field is named for. Jacobs, Visconti, and Jacobs developed many malls throughout Ohio and neighboring states throughout the 70s and 80s, which have met different fates in the present. Town Mall Galleria in Middletown was a carbon copy designed to Eastgate, so if you'd like a better idea of what this mall looked like prior to its 2004 facelift, take a look at our Town Mall Galleria video, which is next on our list and will be coming out in the next couple weeks. The mall met with a few issues during development and construction. Eastgate was the first and is currently the only enclosed mall in Clermont County, and there was a controversy over whether a tax abatement would be granted that held up construction for a couple years. Eastgate Mall opened in 1980, 6 years after its original conception, with Sears and JCPenney as anchors. The food court and Dillard's you see in the current floor plan were not there. Originally, the restaurants in the mall all had their own seating, even the Orange Julius and the Arby's. That Arby's was 80s-tastic, all kinds of blonde wood and those fake leafy plants that always seemed dusty, but it felt like home. There was also a Friendly's restaurant and a York Steakhouse, which served food cafeteria style. You see that lunar glow golf place right here? That is where Ron, the captain steering this ship, and I had our actual first date. That's right, ladies. Have your first date in a dimly lit room and let your personality do the work. At the end of the 1980s, all the malls in Cincinnati began an arms race. This is going to be the part where I bring up Forest Fair Mall again, but it had a huge impact on the local mall economy. Those fears ended up being unfounded, but every other mall was scared. Eastgate's entry into the 1990 improvement race was to add an additional wing that would lead to a McAlpin's department store, which would become a Dillard's in 1995 when the chain was purchased. It was, for Eastgate Mall, a big step into what seemed upscale for the market. Sears and JCPenney did not sell Coach handbags, so it was fancy. They had a cosmetics counter, and they sold Chanel No. 5. The design was really similar to the one that opened at the same time in Tri-County, which is now closed, but I discussed in our last video. Most of the furnishings were this sort of blush-toned terracotta marble, and I don't think I ever realized just how nice looking it was until I was in there a few weeks ago, and I saw some of those fixtures without any merchandise to distract me. That's how dead malls are, though. I don't think most of us ever paid attention to the architecture until all the shiny things weren't there to distract us anymore, and we got to see just the bones. In 1995, the Kohl's location was added at the end of one of the original shorter wings. I remember when I went into 8th grade in 1995, if your clothes came from Kohl's, you were one of the cool kids. In 2001, CBL and Associates purchased the mall, who still own it to this day. They began plans in 2003 to update the mall, as it had begun to look very dated by this point. The fact that it did not have a food court was unusual by then, and some of the restaurants had begun to resent their sister locations in the other malls didn't have to be responsible for tables and chairs as well as serving food. The remodel not only added a food court, but also gave a facelift to the entire mall, removing the fountains, dark stone, and sunken seating areas. It also introduced carpet and more casual seating, such as club chairs, into the common areas. Stores have been leaving, as they do for about a decade, a few at a time. Steve & Barry's left in 2009 when the entire chain went under. Fashion Bug, Radio Shack, Deb. The list of departing tenants reads like a who's who of mall chains that have either gone under completely or have had to rapidly shed locations in the last 5 years. Eastgate is a small mall off the beaten path that doesn't quite do enough volume to rate high on the list for chains that need to cut costs to keep a location open. The retailers that have come in to replace them have been lower tier. In 2011, a tenant called Green Spa that operated ostensibly offering therapeutic massages was busted for prostitution due to customer reports that they were offering additional non-therapeutic services in their back room. 5 women were charged in an undercover investigation. I do find this new pop-up shop interesting, though. It seems like an interesting concept, and I did do a little research and found it's something a lot of malls are doing. The tenants of a pop-up sign short-term leases, and in this case, as short as a weekend. But it's a way to drive traffic and allow a new small business to try out selling in a mall setting before going all in on a long-term contract. It's kind of a neat idea, and I'm curious to see how it plays out for Eastgate and the other malls that are trying it. As far as design, this mall, and others remodeled around the same time, are an interesting case study in what following current trends looks like 10 and 15 years on. The color scheme in 2004 seemed really fresh and fun and vibrant. All that yellow hasn't aged too well, though. I do have to say, in 2004, if you would have told me we were romanticizing teal and mauve as the height of design in 2018, I would have laughed in your face. Maybe 10 years from now, if we're still doing these videos, that apple green and butter yellow color scheme will be the new Solo Jazz Cup. Right now, it just looks like a pair of bootcut jeans, though. Old enough to be old, but not old enough to be retro. Eastgate Mall, if I can run the risk of being too on the nose, looks like a girl who could use a wardrobe update. She's been a good friend, though. I just want to give her a hug and take her shopping. Maybe I can set her up with that handsome Anderson Town Center and exit over. He's outdoorsy. Maybe we can go on a double date. On to Northgate. I have a couple of confessions about Northgate, the biggest of which is I hadn't been there in about 2 years. It's on the opposite side of town from where I live, and the last time I was here, it wasn't doing so great. It was before the Burlington location had opened, as well as before the Ashley Furniture and Better Sleep Center had gone in, so there was an entire wing that was unoccupied. I was pleasantly surprised that they're enjoying a bit of a recovery. In spots. The wing leading to Macy's and Sears are filled with vacant storefronts, and the wing that they've been working on recently is doing great. I only hope this continues. The end they've reconfigured into something of an indoor big box center with the Marshalls and DSW is a brilliant repurposing of an empty anchor space from where Dillard's left in 2009. The area you see Burlington in was once an empty corridor leading to the parking lot that they have walled in to turn into a large retail space. The area you see the movie theater now occupies what was also once a vacated anchor space. The current owner, Tabani Acquisitions, said that when they took over, they specialized in what they were calling distressed properties. It appears they have ideas that work. They have not, like many other mall overhaul projects, done some big cosmetic makeover. They have instead tried valiantly to fill the mall with stores that drive traffic, and that strategy seems to be working. We were here at 11 a.m. on a Friday, and the mall was bordering on too busy to comfortably film in, which is great news. Northgate Mall opened in 1972 on the site of the former Mount Healthy Airport in Coleraine Township. The centerpiece of the mall was a 3-story brutalist-style anchor location of Polk's department store, which featured a posh restaurant called The Balcony. The mall was also anchored by Sears and McAlpin's on each end. There was a restaurant in the mall called Johnny Bench's Home Plate, but the mall did not actually feature a food court. In 1993, a Lazarus location was added, and the mall was remodeled to add a food court. Each of the wings was extended to add spaces for 33 additional inline tenants, and a 3-story parking garage was added. The remodel increased the leasable retail space to over 1 million square feet. In 2005, the mall was acquired by Feldman Properties of New York, who performed an additional facelift on the exterior of the mall to update the fixtures and finishes and change the logos and branding. In 2005, the JCPenney left for a lifestyle center a mile away. A 14-screen movie theater was announced to fill the empty space, and the JCPenney was demolished in anticipation of its construction, but a theater would not open until 2015 due to disputes with Rave Cinemas, the original cinema company that was supposed to open there. For several years, a big hole with a construction fence surrounding it jutted out into the parking lot. I'm glad they found something to fill it that is bringing in this many people. As far as mall aesthetics, this mall is kind of an interesting mix because I think the wood on the ceilings is very modern, looks very up to date. When you get to the food court, it's very 90s, which is cool. I love the neon. I hope they don't tear it all out. And check out the little sculpture on top of this kid's ride display.
Chickens' heads, they don't have the same, they don't have they don't have the fluid filled sac like we do around their brain. Their brain is basically touching skull. So they've evolved to keep their head perfectly steady no matter what. So they took a chicken and strapped a camera to its head and put it on a boat, a speedboat. It was perfectly steady footage.
Oh God.
It's like chicken Steadicam.
I don't think that they're gonna look favorably on us bringing a chicken into the mall, because the whole idea is for us to be inconspicuous.
Okay, fine. We start going to malls in Kentucky or West Virginia, they won't notice.
From both of us at Unicon, thanks for tuning in. We're a small channel, but we're really encouraged by your comments, feedback, and how many people have seen our videos so far. If you're a fan of vintage retail and dead malls, join the conversation on Discord. You'll find the link in the description, as well as to links to the music used in this video and videos from other channels we enjoy and think you will as well. Please like, and if you have not already, subscribe. Share this with your friends if you think they'll like it too. Thanks for tagging along, and we'll see you next time.